Hello, I'm Brian Choi, Managing Partner and CEO of the Food Institute. Welcome to the Food Institute's Expo East recap live stream, which just took place on September 20th to 23rd in Philadelphia at the Philadelphia Convention Center. This program is sponsored by City National Bank. City National Bank prioritizes people and the communities that they serve. With over $95.4 billion in assets, City National Bank provides banking, investment, and trust services through 69 branches, including 21 full-service regional centers in Southern California, the San Francisco Bay Area, Nevada, New York City, Nashville, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., and Miami. In addition, the company and its investment affiliates manage to administer $94.5 billion in client investment assets. City National is a subsidiary of the Royal Bank of Canada, one of the world's leading diversified financial services companies. RBC serves more than 17 million personnel, business, public sector, and institutional clients through offices in Canada, the United States, and 27 other countries. For more information about City National, visit the company's website at www.cnb.com/food and beverage. We have a great guest panel of industry experts who will be sharing their thoughts all about Expo East. And so let's welcome today's guests. First, we have Carolyn Simmons, partner at Melitas Ventures. Carolyn joined Melitas Ventures as a partner in 2022. She was previously an investor at Alliance Consumer Growth and Circle Up, and has dedicated her career to investing in high-growth consumer businesses across a variety of verticals and stages. Before that, Carolyn was an associate in private equity at Sycamore Partners, where she worked on acquisitions of large, iconic consumer and retail companies and helped manage a portfolio of apparel brands. She began her career as an investment banker at Goldman Sachs in the consumer and retail group. Carolyn received an MBA from Harvard Business School and a BA from Stanford University. Our second guest is Abraham Kamarck, CEO and founder of True Made Foods. Abe grew up in Southern Italian cooking on his mom's side, of the Southern Virginian cooking on his dad's side. Both his parents worked and were often gone, so Abe learned his way around the kitchen and cemented his love of cooking and food at an early age. After graduation from Vanderbilt University, he spent 8 years in the U.S. Navy as a Seahawk helicopter pilot before earning his MBA at the London Business School. Abe left the military service in 2008, right during the Great Recession. With school loans, a new baby, and another on the way, Abe and his wife, also a Navy veteran, had become entrepreneurial to survive. Abe leveraged his military experience working in uncertain and difficult environments to build a career in emerging markets. He lived and worked in Bulgaria, Egypt, Ghana, and Qatar for years. In 2013, Abe and his family returned to the U.S. and worked as a director of innovation for a charity to launch a direct trade Ugandan coffee and social impact company. This experience introduced him to the food industry, and in 2015, Abe made his decision to combine his passion for healthy cooking with his entrepreneurial side to create True Made Foods. And last but not least, we have Zach Chubb, Managing Director of the Northeast Division of City National Bank. Zach Chubb is Managing Director with City National Bank's Food and Beverage Group based in New York. He leads the East Coast food and beverage sector coverage. He provides comprehensive capital solutions supported by City National's full product suite to help customers achieve their financial and strategic objectives. Mr. Chubb has more than 15 years of corporate finance and consumer sector experience, executing over $20 billion in transactions. And so there we have it. We have our three guest panelists. Welcome to FI Live.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Excellent. Well, I want to kick things off here. We all just came back from Expo East. I wanted to get your individual thoughts on the conference. What was your experience? How this Expo East compares with previous ones that you've attended? And so maybe we can start off with Zach. Please share your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. Look, I think, as everyone knows, this was the end of an era. It was a great show, but I think top of mind was, what's next. After having been at the show for many years, this one and its sister company, sister show out in California, a lot of the similar themes I think we've seen in past years. I felt like attendance was, pretty good. A nice collection of sort of the usual exhibitors and some new ones, as well as just a good number of folks walking the floor and checking out what's new, what's what trends are sort of top of mind for folks, and just a lot of talk generally about what's happening in the industry, what's happening from a regulatory standpoint, what's happening from a trend standpoint. So all in all, a great show, and look forward to getting into the details here.
Great. Abe, why don't you take it next there?
I mean, I think it was actually one of the better Expo East over the past few years. That's not saying much since we were coming out of COVID. And it's been slow to kind of restart. There were more retailers there than I've ever seen before, at least since pre-COVID. But I think all the shows, and especially at Expo East, the smaller shows, like have to ask them. They're having an identity crisis because these things all started as selling shows, as a way for brands to get exposure and meet buyers and get face to face with buyers that they wouldn't normally get. And that doesn't happen anymore. Like, the retailers rarely stop at the booths. They rarely use this as an opportunity to find new products. They're kind of there because they have to be, if they want to be. If you do get meetings there, they're usually have to set them up ahead of time. You rarely get anything, random, like random sales like that. And honestly, building random sales is no way to build a business either. Like, just, going to a show and hoping you get sales is no way to plan your business out. So I hope this is a step in the right direction and moving towards kind of more of a more controlled, a better opportunistic area. There's more planned capability of being able to build sales for small brands, and not just kind of this spray and pray kind of method of going to a show and hoping you run into buyers.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and we'll definitely delve into the pros and cons of this type of trade show format in a little bit. Carolyn, I want to kick it over to you. What were your general thoughts on Expo East?
Yeah, thanks. Overall, I'd say it was another great show. Relative to last year, I'd say the turnout was probably less. That said, still had really great, just excellent conversations. These shows are generally great opportunities to reconnect with all different people from all different backgrounds and perspectives in the ecosystem more broadly. I'd say it was less helpful from a new brand discovery perspective, but overall great to reconnect with investors, founders, and buyers as well. And there was definitely a lot of buzz and speculation about what next year has in store.
Yep, absolutely. My general thoughts were that it was a good show. I wasn't disappointed. I've been to many different types of shows, not just Expo West and Expo East, but Fancy Food Show as well, both summer and winter. And it was still good to walk the show to see what products were out there. And we're going to be talking about some of the new product trends in a little bit. But I agree with your comments, Abe, that the value of these shows, especially in light of what companies wanting to just make sure they to save costs, wanting to meet buyers. I've heard some feedback that from some of the exhibitors that they want to see more buyers, right? And I think that that's a good segue into kind of this new format in 2024 in Utopia Now. That was a big announcement when I was there, and they actually had a section that described what the show floor format is going to look like, right? So much more experiential, much more conducive to building connections between buyers and manufacturers. And so I'll, as a question for the panelists here, and I'll kick it off to you, Abe, to start the conversation. The interaction between buyers and manufacturers, that's a key focus, obviously, for you as a manufacturer yourself. What is your thoughts on this new format? Is this really the future of where the shows will be going?
It's really hard to say right now. I'm optimistically skeptical looking at it right now. It looks very it looks attractive, but I worry about all the hype. There's been too much hype in the industry kind of as it is. The video, nothing against Newtopia or whatever, but the video seems like something that was thrown together in 2010 with a lot of, hype AI, like something in like 2010, you'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then now we've seen so much of this cropped. Yeah, like let's throw in some motivational quotes and have, very different types of clip art of inspirational people, things like this, and try to show as much diversity as possible. I think it's just, it's just trying too hard without really saying anything. And I think that's kind of the problem. And the problem with these kinds of things in general for the industry is that when you first get started as a young brand and you're first getting into the industry and you don't know anything about it, because most founders, come from outside of the industry and found something, and they're trying to learn the industry and what to do. They see stuff like this and they think, oh, this is what I need to do to be successful. And like, oh, we need to go hard. We need to go heavy here. This is it. This is where you go out. And it's like the old-fashioned entrepreneurial story, old-fashioned from like 5 years ago, like entrepreneurial stories about like, we went all in on our booth and their last bits of money, but we closed like 5 different new accounts and we survived. And like, that doesn't happen. Like, that's not real. That's not going to happen. And it's a waste of time and money. And I don't want new founders kind of believing that fairy tale, that this is like your chance. And I think there needs to be kind of more of a reality and grounding in the industry instead. Like, we were talking on our team, like, we're probably not going to ship our booth to Expo West. We'll probably have a table and a backdrop, and that's it. We're going to go lean. We're going to go as bare bones as possible. We've been around for a while. People know our brand. Why are we going to spend all that? It costs about $20,000 to ship the booth across the country and back and all the different setup fees. The amount of money, the way we could spend that money bringing in new customers would be much better spent. So, I think that's kind of the thing that we need to be focused on. I think we forgot one of the problems with the industry, and sorry to keep going, but like the key problem with the industry is that like you have to sell to grocery buyers. Like, you're constantly selling to grocery buyers, but at the end of the day, the end customer is the real consumer. And that's the only person that really matters. And I think, it's easy to lose sight of that and to focus and spend more money trying to get on retail shelves or dealing with the retail side of the business, when really it's like the consumer side is just 100 times more important. And I'd like to see things more focused, more events focused on consumer side, more brands focusing on the consumer side. And, we've fallen into this trap too. We get sucked into it too. So I think that's the challenge, and I think that's the problem that we're facing in this industry.
Yeah. And Carolyn, you as a partner at Melitas Ventures, you have a number of food and beverage brands in your portfolio. What are you telling your portfolio companies as it relates to attendance, exhibiting at these shows? Are you in the same camp as Abe, where you're, especially in this stage where the economy might be slowing down, there's a lot more risk? Are you telling your portfolio companies, hey, maybe just focus on 1 or 2 main events in the year, or look for buyers or other clients in other avenues outside of the show format?
I think so. I'm very supportive of attendance, period. Attendance at these events is really important because especially for Expo West. You know, that is such a huge hub for so many key decision makers in the industry. Now, as Abe was mentioning, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to spend a fortune. And so being cognizant of the events where you're going to see the highest ROI is important. So founders should ruthlessly prioritize and obviously stay really cognizant of the bottom line and where to best allocate their limited funding that year. And if they're not seeing that, you know, for example, Expo East or certain events are yielding that kind of ROI, then I'm super supportive of putting it towards other categories that really are more effective. But I would say generally attendance is really important, and I experienced that both at Expo West and also at Expo East. But you're touching really, Brian, on some key themes, which are these events are becoming less effective, and it's going to be really interesting to see how they evolve to make them more effective. And as far as the video that you described or that you showed goes, you know, it definitely comes across that it's great marketing and branding for New Hope, but it's kind of unclear what that actual format and organization of next year's event will look like. And I bet it's going to take some time to work through kinks and a new organization that actually does create you know, an opportunity for smaller companies, emerging companies that have less resources to be able to showcase new product and be able to promote real product innovation and discovery, because ultimately those companies may not have the funds to be able to have a big splashy, you know, make a big splash with a massive booth. So it'll be interesting to see how the organization works through that.
Yeah. I want to shift gears to Zach here. You know, Zach, City National Bank normally has a big presence at Expo West, and I've been a part of a lot of the functions and events that you guys place over there. How does City National Bank, as a relationship manager, as you know, as a bank that supports many of these food and beverage companies, albeit larger size, how do you see the value of these shows from your perspective, from a relationship development perspective? And are you seeing other ways in which to, you know, food and beverage companies to make connections with buyers, with other investors at these shows?
Yeah, look, it's a good question. As Carolyn said, you know, attendance at some of these for folks kind of in my seat, it's a good way to go out and meet with a lot of people in a short amount of time, as well as sort of get caught up on what's new in the industry and what's happening. And so, you know, we view certainly Expo West as one of the, you know, the great opportunities to do that. And, you know, we do host an event there, and I'm sure many of you have attended, and, you know, view that as an important way to connect. You know, as I think about the shows, there's a couple of priorities for me. And obviously I have a different, you know, objective than say Abe, who's trying to run the brand and sell his product to buyers. But, you know, for me, it's really about, you know, connecting with folks that I've known for a long time, meeting new folks, and then just understanding the industry and what's new and what's coming. And so, you know, it's a, you know, it'll be interesting to see what Expo East turns into, and if that is a format that's conducive for folks who aren't necessarily exhibitors and trying to sell product, but ones that are, you know, on the periphery, say supporting, you know, supporting brands, supporting companies, you know, and kind of helping to try to drive the industry forward. And so, you know, yes, it's the shows, but it's also sort of the direct connections, you know, platforms like this, you know, where we're able to sort of have a conversation across, you know, different types of organizations, whether it's, you know, finance partners like me or Carolyn, brand owners like Abe, folks like yourselves who are more on the media side, we find a lot of these to be very helpful as well, just in terms of, kind of getting out the message, and connecting with people in a broad way. And that's really what, the shows are about for us. And so it'll be interesting to see again how, how the new Topia format plays out, and if it's one that's conducive for that, or if it is truly more, oriented towards the one-on-one buyer broker connection with the brand owners.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. I want to have one follow-up question for Abe. You made a comment earlier as we're preparing for this live stream about different ways in which you're able to connect with buyers, right? So whereas in the past, these show formats were a primary way to meet buyers, obviously attendance is down from the buyer side. As a food manufacturer looking to expand, like what are some other avenues in which you've been able to gain success in reaching buyers, whether use of brokers, other shows that might be more cost effective? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the use of brokers is kind of critical. A few years ago, I would have thought that brokers were going away, but I think they're more important than ever now. At least, or having strong salespeople who have the connections. It doesn't take a lot. It's just knowing who the buyers are at the right thing, getting the review cycle, being able to get meetings, just having that little bit of industry or inside knowledge makes all the difference. You don't even need a national broker necessarily. You can have a handful of different regional brokers or focus brokers. Sometimes they're even more effective because they really, really just know the store incredibly well. So they know all the buyers. And having salespeople who really know the category so they can really anticipate everything, know what's happening. Stores are changing their presentation formats and their review cycle calendars all the time. So you need to be on the email list to get these things updated. That just takes time and connections and finding the right people who, come through this. The other side is tabletop shows. The distributor tabletop shows are a little bit hit and miss too. I mean, they obviously, they get you in front of a lot of buyers. You're rarely going to see the very large stores there. It's usually smaller stores. So the distributor tabletop shows are great for kind of filling in sales once you've opened a DC. I don't think they're great for actually opening a distributor DC. So that's something I would keep in mind when you're looking at doing a distributor tabletop show is, are your products already in the DCs for the retailers that are going to be attending that show so that you can sell more through that existing DC, optimize that pipeline. Otherwise, really it has gone back to, I think it's almost gone, it's gone back to just basically relationships, brokers, managing that, getting in front of, getting the presentations right. And it's, kind of pre 2010, to be honest. I think from what I understand is, grocery buyers right now, from what I can tell, aren't going to bring in new products based on hype. They've been burned too many times in the past. They're working on tighter margins. Labor costs are up. It's harder to reset shelves. So, they want to see proven products now. We're kind of a pre-hype cycle at this point. It's kind of gone down. So at this point for new brands, the key is to build a consumer base first and then start going after retailers. I have to say that is the way to do it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And for us, as we're sort of like looking at different ways and strategies to connect with clients, really social media, I think is something that a lot of these brands can utilize way in advance of a show like Expo East or Expo West, right? And so, a lot of that legwork can be done months in advance so that you can get specific buyers that you're targeting to these shows, so you can have that one-on-one, and even to have an opportunity to have your buyer taste your product, right? Which I think is critical from a product discovery perspective. So
yeah, getting the face-to-face is important, letting them see the product in person. I mean, these days too, post-COVID, in-person meetings aren't happening really very often, if it more. Very few meetings are happening, actually. They usually end up just taking submissions. So you're submitting, maybe a PowerPoint or a PDF presentation. So it's really hard to get, your brand across to the buyer. Again, though, I think like buyers they're not going off gut instinct anymore. Like they want to see the data. They don't want to see the hype. They want to see sales, and they want to see sales traction. And they want to see how many customers you have. So you need to be able to convince them, that you have a consumer base that will start buying the product right away, or that you are on some type of major trend that they are seeing in their data, and so that will help grow their category, and bring new consumers to their category. Yeah, so it's become a much more rational. I feel like it's become much more rational, almost too much so, like rational theory.
yeah, agreed. All right, so we're going to shift gears and talk about major trends that you all saw at Expo East. And so maybe Carolyn, you can give your thoughts on maybe the top 3 themes and your takeaways on key trends from Expo East.
Yeah, so I'd say these are ongoing trends. They weren't, necessarily new, but just very apparent at the show. The first I'd say was, just ethnic and global flavors. I saw a number of Asian brands, Filipino, Indian, Hispanic. It was countless. Even in the baby food space, I saw a baby food company called Global that promoted international flavors for babies to be able to, grow and grow the palate early. So that was definitely one that I've been tracking that was very apparent. And I think has in large part to do with, just exploration and interest post-COVID in new, diverse experiences and tastes. Another one that definitely came across, which, we at Melitas have been tracking for a while, and hopefully is apparent through our investment in Olipop, is gut health. And whether it's prebiotics, probiotics, or different formats like gummies, pills, beverages, shots, digestive health, and its connection to brain health, I would add, is definitely has gained momentum, and we continue to be really excited about it. That was definitely apparent at the show. And then I would add, thirdly, it was interesting. I noted a number of sugar alternatives, but rather than a huge kind of erythritol and allulose and kind of fake sugar, more keto-friendly brands, I was actually noting kind of more brands that featured limited or lesser amounts of real sugar, or sugar derived from different sources. So dates was one example of that. Saw a number of brands featuring date sugar, date syrup, or just date snacks, whole real sugar. That was noted in Dolce, or for example, the Better For You brownie, with kind of a lesser amount of cane sugar. But that I thought was actually interesting and exciting, and one that I'll be tracking as well.
Great. Zach, want to bring you in here. Do you anything that you would want to add to Carolyn's comments, or anything different that kind of caught your eye at Expo East?
Yeah, maybe I'll take a sort of a different approach to that question. I think it's more about, what I didn't see. And, I think if everyone sort of rewinds the clock a little bit, and if you think about the last couple of either Expo West or Expo East or both, there was obviously there was a predominance of sort of one single theme that seemed to, show up a lot. And whether that was, bars, plant-based proteins, CBD, sort of some of these bigger trends. I didn't necessarily notice that as much, or, for instance, the packaging of some of the new products, I didn't see as much labeling around, keto or gluten free. It seemed like a lot of the brands are kind of sticking to the tried and true messaging around, better for you, the mega trend, better for you, less sugar. And Abe obviously is well positioned for that. But, less sugar, better for you, clean ingredients, short ingredient deck, that kind of stuff. And, there didn't seem to be sort of these trends where, brands were kind of showing up and kind of chasing an opportunity. It seemed more like, they're out trying to solve a problem or position themselves around these mega trends versus having a sort of me too product that, while a lot of us here are sitting, either on the coast, New York or, kind of California, but, it's really, and Abe alluded to it, what is the mainstream consumer buying? And how are the products getting aligned to that? The folks who are at the end of the day going to buy it, not necessarily the ones that, look good in a booth or kind of, have whatever the important buzzword of the day is. And I just didn't see a lot of that, on the floor this year. And frankly, it might be a function of, a change in the marketplace, people kind of getting back to what's worked and what's been, sort of top of mind for consumers more broadly.
Yeah, definitely that is something that I would agree with. One thing that kind of caught my eye is when a lot of the new types of products that were out there, especially on the snack category. Again, it's a small package, and when I asked them the question, what's the price point at retail? A lot of the answers that it came back, $6, $7, $8, a package. And, in the back of my mind, what for the mainstream consumer, who's going to be paying $6, $7, $8 for a package of, a new type of chip, right? And flavor. And I'm sure there's still an audience out there, but I think you're spot on, Zach, in that what is tried and true, what's going to hit the mainstream consumer out there that's going to make these products kind of go up, in terms of kind of adoption and discovery. And I think that was one thing that was sort of eye-opening to me. I didn't really, I think just, for example, like Brazzi Bites is one that I've got to know. Junia Rocha, she built the brand over 10 plus years. Her brand is really, focused on the frozen category, and it's bread and cheese kind of with that ethnic, ethnic twist. And thank you, Brittany, for putting that up there. So these are already flavors that are familiar with to the American consumer. And what she's doing is adding a new twist. Like she had the waffle, the new type of waffles, which I thought was quite, was new, but still familiar to the consumer here. So, yeah, I think the a lot of the new types of snacks out there that I saw at Expo East was more to a very specific type of consumer rather than mass. And so maybe I'll turn it over to Abe here. Just I know you were manning the booth, but is there anything that kind of caught your eye as you've been able to walk the aisles at Expo East?
Yeah, I mean, we always joked. The last couple of years, we've joked that like if you want to see what's not going to be around in 2 years, then read the trends at Expo, because there happens to be what I realize after doing this, being in this industry for a little bit, is like what's hot at Expo doesn't actually mean what's hot, what the consumers actually want. It's just whatever where the money is at the moment. So plant-based being, plant-based and CBD being the most two recent examples. But and as Zach alluded to, the Me Too movement, where like there's just a little bit of success with one type of category and everybody rushes in, and next thing you know, that it's completely saturated with a bunch of lookalike products. I didn't see that as much this year, which I think was great. There wasn't like one overarching theme or category, as Zach said, which was fantastic. I think you're seeing the real trends finally starting to come out. Like we need to. It's all about discerning the signal from the noise and what's a real trend and what's a fad. And the fads tend to go like this, and have like gigantic expensive booths everywhere, all over the place, and the trends are going to build out slowly and slowly over time. And trends that probably obviously global flavors. People have been talking about global flavors for the past 10 years. I think it's finally kind of having its moment. There's lots of great Asian products out there, and I'm beginning of seeing a lot more good Latin American products that are doing extremely well. It's probably going to be way overdone. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of other bad products jumping in, and there will probably be some Me Too in the global flavor thing, because it's kind of a little bit too easy to do. And then I think also, obviously, no sugar, and not necessarily keto, but low carb, or getting away from processed carbohydrates, I think is the key. And that kind of engulfs the whole Whole30 paleo, keto, low carb movement, like just getting in towards better foods, no sugar, better substitutes. When the no sugar thing really started to pick up over the past 2 years, like Carolyn alluded to, there's just a ton of stuff that came in using erythritol and other types of sugar alcohols and every other type of non-nutritive sweetener you can think of, that just gives people gastrointestinal distress and causes all kinds of problems. And we saw that with Halo Top, like this massive rise, a meteoric rise in this big fall, because they use erythritol, and I think we're going to see that with the other products that use it too. But it's good to see people's brands starting to move away from it, and just maybe brownies don't have to be pure keto. They don't have to be no sugar. Like brownies can just be marginally healthier. That's okay. Same with cookies. Cookies and brownies don't have to be functional. We can eat broccoli for functionality. We are still seeing and hearing about the functional foods and beverages, which personally annoys me, because I think food is functional. Food is perfectly functional, and I don't think there's anything more functional than coffee and tea in the beverage set. One trend that I do see, that there's a lot going into, is the non-alcoholic drinks. I think that's going to be big. I've been seeing that building for the past couple of years, and there's probably a lot of excess money going into it, but causing some noise. But I think all the trends show that people are going to be drinking less and drinking less alcohol. The younger generations are drinking less alcohol, so we need to find something to start to replace it. Whether you can find something really good that's actually better for you is a good question. But I like that trend. I see that coming. As somebody who used to drink a lot, it's kind of thing going away. But so we're. I think those are the kind of the big things that are happening. It's just kind of moving towards more. I've always said this too. It's like the science wins out over time. Like the nutrition science will win out. There's going to be all kinds of noise in the nutrition industry all the time. But over time, over a longer period of time, things revert to the mean. And so you got to look at it like a long game. And I think that's been one of the problems in the past 10 years, is people haven't been playing this like a long game. And that's why we've seen so many like hot fads, and wasted money on all kinds of different weird startups all the time.
Yeah, no, those are great points. I would echo your comments, Abe, about the non-alcoholic. Like that's one. There's one product that kind of stood out to me in that category. It's Seraphim. They're they're saying that it's the first non-alcoholic wine, and the product actually tasted, very, very good, right? And so we've seen a lot of innovation in the beer category, but to see it in the wine, I thought that was quite interesting. I had a chance to speak with Marco Salazar, who heads up the Non-Alcoholic Beverage Association, and he was telling me about the influx of members that are joining his association. So maybe that's an indication of what's to come. What's also interesting is that I spotted more heat elements in beverage. Like, for example, like Hella Cocktail, they're introducing like a habanero flavored mocktail, which is interesting. I never really thought that combination would work, but apparently it's not just his company, but multiple products out there that's introducing the heat element in beverage. And then the other comment about kind of the ethnic international foods, what I saw was food and beverage products that are more gearing towards authentic, so rather than the inspired, but really from the country with real ingredients, introducing that to the American consumer. And so it's really interesting to kind of see all these all these products and beverage, food and beverage products that at play. So for the last part of the segment, I wanted to kind of shift gears here again and just talk about the funding climate, right? And so we're sort of in this, a lot of has happened this year. I remember when I was at Expo West, that's when a lot of the news around the VC markets kind of it broke. And so wanted to get Carolyn and Zach, as part of this conversation is what's happening on the funding side. How are you thinking about investments? And Zach, how are you thinking about funding as well as a national lender to food and beverage businesses? Has the calculus, the risk reward changed in this sort of environment now as we're entering Q4 and then looking out to 2020, 2024? So Carolyn, maybe you can kick things off here.
Sure. So I'd say broadly, our thesis hasn't changed, which is Melitas Ventures. We continue to believe that consumers are going to want to eat healthier and better and more real foods, and potentially pay a premium for those products. And that conversely, we also continue to think that large strategics are still going to want to acquire brands and are going to have a harder time innovating internally and look to acquire brands kind of on the forefront of these trends that we were just discussing. That said, it is a tough market out there, and I'm seeing in terms of fundraising right now, a lot of opportunities to invest in, call it, more bridge rounds to kind of get through the next 6 to 12 months, as opposed to previously, even last year was looking at much larger lofty rounds at lofty valuations. I think there's been a process of slowly coming back to earth in terms of real multiples, and so it's making it tough for founders for sure. It's also creating real opportunity, and I would say we continue to stay disciplined and excited about investing, but I'd say amongst the investor community, there's a renewed focus on, if not profitability today, what is the path to profitability? But continuing to look to strong metrics, whether it's in stores in brick and mortar through, proof points of sell through. Abe was talking about earlier, it's not only convincing buyers to sell you in your product in stores, but investors are looking for very similar metrics, and whether it's velocity or sell-through in brick and mortar or online, whether it's the simple question of are customers coming back to purchase product, and what do the unit economics of that business look like now and over time. Those are questions that we've always been focused on and will continue to be focused on.
Great. How about you, Zach?
Yeah, look, I don't think the calculus has changed at all for us. We are senior debt lenders. We have a $2 billion book out to the food and beverage industry broadly. And so I don't think we've really changed our approach. Certainly walking around the floor and talking with, folks and brands that are growing, there was more interest around, what are you doing with capital? How are you allocating it? How do you think about underwriting new deals? That was certainly a point of interest for a lot of people. And we're not immune to some of the changes I think that everybody has seen in the banking market. Capital is more expensive today, right? So it needs to be what's the right place for us to allocate it? What's the plan for those funds? Is it around a new product launch? Is it a new facility? Is it an M&A transaction? And so as always, we want to make sure we understand what the longer term plan is. But in the immediate term, while the rates are high, is there going to be an ability to service that debt? Certainly the last thing we want to do is put some capital out and then within 6-12 months have to revisit that and make an amendment. And so we're being a little bit more cautious, but certainly we view that there's a lot of opportunities and a lot of great businesses to support. And I think where we are now is a little bit of an inflection point where there's going to be maybe a little bit of a shakeout around the companies and borrowers. But those who come through in the back end, I think, are certainly going to be stronger, and there's going to be more opportunity for that. And we continue to be there, and want to get aligned with and support those brands and those companies through this phase and through their next phase. So yeah, look, it's a tougher environment for sure. It's more expensive, but the capital is there, and we're willing to work with people to make sure we're allocating it to the right places.
Right. I want to end this live stream with one question for each of you. So over the next 12 months, what is your top prediction for 2024? I know we're still closing out 2023. Anything that you'd like to share? Top prediction for 2024. We'll start off with Abe.
Oh, you're starting with me. I think there's going to be some major fads that really die and flame out. I think we're going to see some major flame outs. Probably won't be very public. It'll probably be very private. That tends to happen in our industry, flame outs. And I think some really good companies, some small companies that can't get funding are probably going to go out of business as well. I've already seen a few because there's just no funding for anything under 10 million right now, which is a shame. But some really strong companies are going to go out. We're going to lose a lot of innovation. There's going to be a real lack of innovation in the pipeline, and I think some of the grocery stores and the later stage investors that are doing growth capital are going to be stuck for finding new products to grow their sets or grow their platforms or their portfolios, because we've kind of put a chokehold on innovation right now, and I don't see a lot of innovation coming down the pipeline. I mean, it's good that the fads are dying out, like, because they were also washing out a lot of good innovation. But we need to figure out a way to get innovation back into the industry. The demand is there from the consumer side. Consumers want new things. They want better food. Um, they just don't want hype, and they don't want false promises. So if we can figure out a way to fund and get better food on shelf sustainably, in an economic way that makes sense for smaller companies, then, I think that's going to be a win-win for everybody. But right now, that's not going to happen over the next 48 probably months.
Right. Carolyn, you're up.
To predict the future, but I would say, the companies that really are able to emerge will be truly differentiated, and so I think in the next year there's going to be some companies that fail, and the ones that do emerge strong are going to be even stronger, and have a product that really does resonate with consumers. And I do think we're going to continue to see big M&A in this space, and so that's I guess my prediction. More of the same, but probably at a more accelerated pace over the next year.
Okay, and last but not least is Zach Chubb. Oh, looks like we lost Zach. But yeah, so this has been a great discussion. I love the authenticity. I love the just sharing your thoughts from different perspectives from different stakeholders in the food industry. So this has been a special edition of FI Live, covering the themes and key takeaways from Expo East. I'd like to once again thank our show's sponsor, City National Bank. You can stay up to date with the food and beverage industry, insights, news, and other needs at www.foodinstitute.com. Subscribe on YouTube to be the very first to watch our FI newscast this Friday, where I had the opportunity to speak with PepsiCo North American leader in the Hispanic unit, Antonia Escalona. So that's airing this Friday at noon Eastern. I'm Brian Choi, CEO of the Food Institute, and I'll see you next time. Thanks again.